If you've been using Keto Coffee with intermittent fasting and you've started to plateau or you've even started to gain weight, is Keto Coffee the one to blame and should you be removing it? Today I'm diving into the details of whether or not Keto Coffee causes weight gain, and if it does, what you should do instead. All right guys, if you're new to my channel and you don't know who I am, my name's Autumn and I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's nutrition human performance. On my channel, I'm typically talking about the science-backed and holistic methods that you can use in order to achieve your wellness dreams. So if you have a wellness goal in mind, make sure you subscribe. Okay, so first things first, a weight loss plateau can be caused by a variety of factors. Too little protein, not enough sleep, high stress, sneaky refined carbohydrates, and sneaky sugars, just to name a few. However, if you've addressed all these factors, if you're following the advanced weight loss strategies in the Level Up guide, and you're still experiencing some type of weight loss plateau, then taking a look at your Keto Coffee might be a good idea. But before we dive into the details of this, it's first important to understand how our body actually uses fat as fuel. This part is super important to understand for achieving your weight loss goals, so feel free to repeat this next section if you need to, because it is really important to understand. So your body doesn't really differentiate between the fat that is stored in your body and the fat that you've eaten in a meal. It will use either as an energy source as long as the insulin level is low. Because remember, when insulin is higher, it physically shuts off what's called lipolysis, which literally means fat breakdown. When our insulin levels are lower, it essentially unlocks the fat cells so that fat can easily go in and out of the fat cell and therefore be used by the body as a fuel source. And if you're in that low insulin state and you have something like Keto Coffee that is pure fat and isn't going to be very insulin inducing, then this just purely adds in a few extra of those fatty acids that can flow in and out of the cells in order to be used as a fuel source. So it's important to remember that in order to be in a storing mode, we need to be having insulin present in order to actually store whatever is available. And this is where looking at the specifics of your diet, of your lifestyle, of what you're doing is extremely important before you just start cutting out all fat in your diet, or even rather the fat within your coffee. As I've talked about in a previous video right here, various non-nutritive sweeteners that technically don't have any calories can still induce an insulin response. So even if you are adding, let's say, stevia or monk fruit or some various sugar alcohols into your Keto Coffee, this still could be responding with insulin. Now, science is a little debatable as of right now on if this happens to everyone or just some people, but the researchers are finding that there is some merit to the fact that non-nutritive sweeteners, those that don't have any calories, still can cause some sort of insulin response. So with this in mind, if you're adding some type of non-nutritive sweetener or artificial sweetener, so something like stevia or monk fruit or sugar alcohols or artificial sweeteners, if you're adding in any of those, then that would be the first area that you want to address on removing those. Because if you are getting an insulin response from those non-nutritive sweeteners, then any of that fat that you are consuming will just immediately be stored because insulin is present. Not because of the fat itself, but because of the fact that your body is having an insulin response to those non-nutritive sweeteners. And a great example of all of this is one of my AM peeps and clients, Katie. Now, Katie was overall following the complete intermittent fasting bundle protocols. She'd been doing really well, had achieved a lot of her goals, but was at a plateau. Now, once we started to meet one-on-one to take a specific look at what she was doing and what she might be adding in without really realizing it, we found that she had a lot of those non-nutritive sweeteners in her diet. Now, once she removed these non-nutritive sweeteners alone, and that's it, that's the only really big change she made during this time, she instantly started seeing and feeling results, and that's with still having her Keto Coffee. And she even hit her goal fairly quickly, all without experiencing hunger and all without trying to actively reduce fats in her diet. But just goes to show how these insulin producing factors, even if they don't contain any calories, can have such a big impact on our weight loss goals. Now, if you decide to experiment with reducing the fats in your Keto Coffee, that's perfectly fine. We're all different and it's really important to see what works best for your body. But the more essential, the more crucial aspects to be considering are those more insulin producing situations. So before you start reducing the amount of fat that perhaps might be helping to keep you satiated and helping to prevent those sugar cravings, it's important that you are looking at to see if you are including any of those insulin producing types of ingredients. And when it comes to reducing the fats that are in your Keto Coffee, there are two things that are really important that you consider first. The first is to be wary of reducing all your fats, because this is a very common mistake I see often. And this is typically paired with that idea of counting calories to get rid of that last few pounds. This reduction in these whole food fats such as avocados, olives, nuts, seeds can lead to a decreased production of our satiety hormone cholecystokinin, or CCK. And this is It's essential. You need to have CCK present in order to achieve a weight loss goal because it triggers and tells your brain that you're full and satisfied. If you aren't eating enough fat in order to stimulate that CCK and therefore you aren't able to really tell your brain that you're fully satisfied, that's when those sugar cravings come in, and that's when you're much more likely to have the foods that will cause insulin to go up and shift your body out of fat burning and into storing mode instead. The second thing to consider is to be very cautious of your hunger levels, especially if you're more new to intermittent fasting and you've been using keto coffee to help suppress hunger that perhaps you might still be experiencing during your fasted state. You might be starting to feel a little bit more hungry sooner now that you have decreased the fats in your coffee. And that makes sense because the fats that are in the keto coffee cause that CCK to be stimulated, makes it tell your brain that you're satisfied and you don't need to eat. And especially over time, this could lead to more sugar cravings that ultimately are going to work against your goals. So if you're thinking of testing out reducing the fats that are in your keto coffee, then this is where it'd be a good idea to reduce it first by half or perhaps even a quarter rather than removing those fats full stop. I personally adjust the amount of fats that I use on my keto coffee depending on my hunger level for that day. So if I've had a particularly more intense workout, then I know that I'm going to have that full amount of fat in my coffee. If I went on a leisurely walk and I know that I'm not as hungry, then I'm going to reduce that a bit because I don't need that extra satiation. So if you think sugar might be a bit of an issue for you and your weight loss goals or your wellness goals, I have a 2-step process on how you can actually get rid of these sugars with this video right here. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out with new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.